When was the last time you thought about your personal energy consumption? Do you have to think before you turn on every appliance in your home? Could your energy consumption affect the people in your community? To most, these may seem like silly hypothetical questions, but to the people of Stehekin, Washington, these questions are essential in their everyday lives. This video will dive into why the people of Stehekin battle these issues, and why these issues lay the ground for an incredibly unique economic system for the community. Many watching right now might be wondering what and where Stehekin is. Stehekin is a small town in the north of Washington, located right above Lake Chelan. The town has a very small community and was home to only 112 people as of 2007. For the people who live there, life is not easy. There's no driving in or out of the city, making travel and transportation of essential goods exceedingly difficult. There is also a limited amount of power that can be used at one time. While these issues make the town sound completely remote, there is still a school and general store for the people of the community. The Stehekin School is very unique in its own right. Due to the small community size, the school only had 11 enrolled students as of 2020. The school was first built in 1921 by members of the community. In 1988, the new Stehekin School was built. This decision was made after residents voted in favor of building the new school. The cost of the building was just over $300,000, not including what was paid to the National Park Service for land. This land agreement was very unique as well because the National Park Service doesn't usually give up its land unless for special circumstances, which in this case was building the school. One large contributor to Stehekin's issues is the lack of transportation in and out of the town. There are no outside roads coming into the town, leaving very few options for residents or potential tourists to get there. The only options for travel are ferry, foot or horseback, private boat, or plane. These options, besides walking, are obviously extremely expensive compared to driving there, making it tough for the small town to see economic growth with it tourism or new residents. This also limits the number of natural resources that can be brought, because things such as natural gas and coal cannot be transported there cheaply. With extremely limited non-renewable resources, Stehekin is forced to supply itself with most of its energy. But how does it achieve this tall task? Stehekin has a power grid powered by a small hydroelectric plant. This plant is separate from the rest of the county and has a 205 kilowatt maximum output with two diesel generators attached that can output 75 kilowatts for when loads exceed the 205 kilowatt threshold. To go with this, it has 250 kilowatt synchronous diesel generators that are used for when the plant is down. For comparison, residential customers in Pullman, Washington, which is a college town to the east of Stehekin, used an average of 815 kilowatt hours per month. This means that a residence in Pullman will use the town of Stehekin's entire maximum output of energy almost 4 times each month. The people of Stehekin have constant issues of exceeding the maximum load, making it tough for the community to use everyday electronics or appliances like most Americans. Due to Stehekin's rural community, the door is open for many unique externalities as it relates to their energy production. These externalities can positively and negatively affect the people and the wildlife in the area. But how so, one might ask? The community right now sees many benefits from the hydroelectric operation. These include fewer emissions from fossil fuels, flood control, fast access to energy, and cheaper prices. These benefits make it an easy choice for the community to choose hydroelectric power. But what the people commonly miss is the negative externalities of this type of production. Hydroelectric dams can interrupt river systems, delay migration up and downstream for fish populations, and create the need for a fish ladder. The interrupted river system and delay of migration concentrate fish into small areas, leaving them vulnerable for non-native predatory fish who thrive in those types of environments. The fish ladders are a way for the fish to slowly get over the dam, but this process, as shown on screen, can reduce the number of adults going upstream and make it harder for juveniles to go downstream. Before each individual, business, the National Park Service, or the school even begin to use energy, they must first thoroughly weigh their consumption with the needs of the community. In 1922, the Chelan PUD estimated that 42% of electrical energy was being used by the private sector, 36% by the National Park Service, and 22% by the concessionaire. The residents, visitors, and the NPS use an average of 1.2 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually. This means that with the National Park Service taking 36% of the energy production annually, there's about 768,000 kilowatt hours per year for the school, businesses, and residents to work with. Schools on average take 10 kilowatt hours per square foot to operate annually. While the Stehekin school is small, the residents and businesses still must ensure this essential service is able to always continue in the community. The school is only one example of many of how this community has to weigh their energy consumption. As previously stated, the community is already dealing with issues exceeding the capacity of the hydroelectric generator. It is expected to be completely over capacity sometime between this year 2024 and 2026. Soon Stehekin might have to consider new options, but what is best for the town? Wind and solar power are two options the town could consider. These both provide the positive externality of eliminating the burning of fossil fuels. Solar power can be great because of its low environmental impact, cheap cost, and the fact that it doesn't have to be connected to the power grid. The negative externalities that come with this, however, include production of toxic waste, lots of land taken up, and mining of rare materials. Wind power, on the other hand, is great for efficiency and has fewer maintenance costs. Some of the negative externalities that can derive from wind turbines are that they are dangerous to some wildlife, they can be very noisy, and they are unreliable due to inconsistencies in the wind. If a business wants to implement energy in Stehekin, they must first find where the community needs it the most, and then review possible externalities of said operations. One large problem right now is the hydroelectric generator rarely reaches its maximum capacity. The reason the generator can't reach it has to do with the flow rates in the stream. The 205 kilowatt rating of the generator is based on a flow of 19 cubic feet per second. In the summer and spring, the fastest flow period of the year, the stream only has a typical flow of 17 cubic feet per second, which produces just over 183 kilowatts. To make matters worse, the flow rate in the winter is typically only 10 cubic feet per second, allowing the hydroelectric plant just to produce 108 kilowatts. Need for energy in the summer and winter in Stehekin is 146 kilowatts and 104 kilowatts for the spring and fall. The people of Stehekin might not all agree with the introduction of new power, or might like to see it done differently. How would the community work together to ensure everyone is happy in this situation? Economist Ronald Coase has a theorem that suggests that bargaining between individuals or groups leads to an optimal and efficient outcome. Say, for example, the community is upset at a solar company for polluting Lake Chelan with toxic waste. Some possible solutions for this could be the community paying a certain amount for the company to dump waste elsewhere, or the company could incentivize people to buy more panels with the promise that at a certain number of panels sold, the pollution in Lake Chelan will cease. In each scenario, the company and the community benefit. The company sees an increase in revenue, and the people are able to live in a healthier environment. Stehekin has a unique market structure due to its remote nature and small community. While not like most markets that are seen in American cities, Stehekin still has several businesses within its borders. These include a bakery, general stores, cabins, hotels, activity services, and transportation services. It also has the utility of energy provided by the Chelan PUD and the public good of the K-8 public school. The businesses, PUD, and school all have a wide array of business structures and vary in how they are run. The business structures vary all the way from small businesses like single cabins, the bakery, and the garden, which are likely run as sole proprietorships, partnerships, or LLCs. These all enjoy the benefits of having less regulatory restrictions, but LLCs are unique in the fact that they have limited liability, while sole proprietorships and partnerships have unlimited personal liability for debts. This varies greatly for the corporations such as North Cascades Lodge at Stehekin. Corporations are unique because they can sell stocks or bonds to raise money, unlike the other structures discussed, and they also have limited liability. The Chelan PUD has a completely different structure than all these, though. It is instead a community-owned utility run by a locally elected board of commissioners. These commissioners work with the community to set rates and work on what is the best approach to providing utilities to the public. There are a lot of positives and negatives for businesses looking to start up in a rural area. The negatives include the areas generally having a lack of infrastructure, people being stuck in their spending habits, and supply chain issues. This is a problem for businesses because they might not be able to use things like electricity or internet and will have a tough time getting inventory and supplies. In Stehekin, this is especially true because there are no roads in or out of the town. The positive companies see with rural communities is the opportunity to get into untapped markets. Rural areas are also rapidly developing, which makes it more possible for companies to operate in them than ever before. This allows for companies to take more risks in rural areas and invest more into them as infrastructure grows. As companies start to implement new energy into Stehekin, they must look at the personal choice consumers have in a community with limited resources and also environmental constraints. In Stehekin, businesses, residents, the National Park Services, and the school are all different users of the town's energy. If we use the implementation of renewable energy to add to the town's maximum electricity output as an example, each group has a different level of satisfaction they get from adding more kilowatt hour capacity. This satisfaction for each additional kilowatt hour added to the output capacity is the marginal utility. Marginal utility varies greatly between all users in Stehekin. Businesses in the community would get the most marginal utility from the additional energy because they could implement innovative technology. They can use all sorts of data to see what the company should continue to do, seize, or scale up. Schools also greatly benefit from the increased capacity because they would be able to implement online learning, which allows for flexibility, reduced costs, increased course variety, and a more personalized education. The marginal utility for the school would fall off faster than the businesses, though, because the small size makes its demand for energy low compared, even with major technological improvements to the school. The residents would get the least marginal utility for each kilowatt hour added. This is because it's hard to change consumption patterns in rural areas. The residents are struggling from a shortage of energy and not being able to meet demands at a normal load, but probably don't want or need more than a consistent capacity they can rely on. The National Park Service demand would be like that of the residents. They most likely don't want more than a consistent capacity so they can get their routine activities completed. Although, they could be supportive of the full implementation of a solar system that completely replaces the hydroelectric dam, eliminating the negative externalities associated with it. This is due to the National Park Service having a, quote, legal obligation to protect park resources from impacts, including those that result from external renewable energy projects. The full implementation of everyone getting on solar would be a network externality. This unique externality is created because there's a benefit from more people that get on the use of solar and get off the use of the hydroelectric power. Education is a must when it comes to influencing sustainable consumer choices in the community of Stehekin. Consumers can be irrational, ignore sunk costs, and be too overly optimistic about the future. In the Stehekin electric implementation example, it is easy for the community to forget about the sunk costs put into the hydroelectric plant. It has already been updated and equipped with additional generators since 1965. These costs and renovations can be completely forgotten about when implementing a new renewable energy source. The people of Stehekin might also be too optimistic about the future of solar power. The negative externalities associated with solar, such as environmental impact during manufacturing and scarcity of materials, could impact the community eventually. This behavior by consumers is why it's so important for education and communication between policymakers, businesses, and residents in the community. In the Chelan PUD public board meeting, there must be discussions about trade-offs each decision makes and how it impacts the community. Individuals might want to do things a certain way, but the Chelan PUD would have to balance their desires with what is best for the environment and the economy as a whole. So, what's next for the people of Stehekin? It's quite easy to see Stehekin is desperate for energy. With a lack of transportation making it hard to import natural resources and a hydroelectric plant that rarely meets capacity, the residents are barely able to give enough energy to themselves. They do not have enough left over to offer it to new businesses or tourism efforts. The people there right now are just getting by, and there is room for growth if more energy comes to the city. It is clear that all members of the community, whether business or resident, must work together to find the best, most efficient solution for everyone. As for now, though, the people will have to keep living in shortage until a long-term solution is figured out. Thank you all for watching. I hope you have a good rest of your day.